What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's the Wager Alarm live stream Tuesday night. I'm Howard Bender. With me here, of course, Craig Mish. Well, this is a day to celebrate, Craig.
Finally.
This weekend was delicious.
Well,
where do we want to start?
Congratulations
to you, my friend.
I'll tell you, we've had a good year with both of the college and the pro, but there's a difference between being good and being great, and that was this past week. We did really, really well with the picks, and it really felt good because we've been rolling around this like above 500, a little below, a little above, a little below, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're kind of using the game and you're betting on these games in terms of units and strength. Like we've talked about in college, it's gone well for the majority of the season. The Super Contest plays for the majority of the season. The first game that we pick each week has won. But then last week we had our first real setback. It wasn't horrible, but we had a setback where we were sub 500, and now we killed it. I mean, we just had a great week, and I think that it's deserved because this is what happens. You start to get a feel for teams. You start to get a feel for how things work, and then by the time you get to week 6, week 7, you should be hitting your gear. Now, at some point, we'll have a setback again because that's what this is. A great example of sports betting is the last 2 nights of pro football. I mean, think about before we get to our record, think about betting on that game last night. You know what the outcome was of the game. What was the right play on that game last night? Was it the Falcons -4 who didn't cover? Was it the Giants scoring late that did? Was it the over? It just shows you that, again, you get yourself to the end of the game and crazy things happen. The night before, you heard Al Michaels talk about it on TV. If you bet the over-under, all you wanted was either Spencer Ware to run in that ball at the end to go over, but if not, with 5 minutes left in the game and the other team had timeouts, on 4th down, you figure they bring in the kicker to kick it like everybody else does. They kick a field goal, the game goes over, and you cash your ticket, but instead they didn't. What is that? Is that bad advice? Is that bad handicapping? No, the answer is there are things that are not tangible when it comes to sports betting, which is why it makes it so difficult. But if you can have a good handicap and you can get yourself to the end of the game or in the 4th quarter, and it's close, you've done the right thing. The difference between being close and being right is always a little bit of a fine line, even with a couple of the games we had this past week, but the end result was the best that we've had all season long. So this is a great Tuesday.
Yeah, it is a great Tuesday, no doubt about it. Let's start with the college football. We went 2-1 on this one here. Let's recap what our picks were. Sure. We said that we were taking Oklahoma.
Oklahoma was as easy as any play could possibly be. TCU is awful this year. The only thing that was a little scary, and this is another lesson, I've talked about this on the live streams before. You probably remember this, how you're going into a game, in a college game, and if the quarterback isn't good, you have a really good chance to win. But what happened in this game? TCU pulled their quarterback. They put another guy in. He started tearing it up. And that's the fear in the – and you're like, who is this guy? He just starts throwing it. Boom, 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 boom. And then he got hurt. And that guy got hurt. He hurt his hand. He couldn't throw. But I'll tell you, if that quarterback from TCU would have stayed in, they were going blow for blow a little bit with Oklahoma. Interesting, we'll have to keep an eye on him. The backup quarterback for TCU in the future is something to watch. But Oklahoma blew him out of the water. It wasn't close. The second game was easy. San Diego State has been one of the best defensive teams. Was it Fresno State or San Diego State? I forget. Best defensive teams in the country. An easy under against New Mexico. That went under, wasn't even close. And then the third game was the one, of course, that we remember. So we started off 2-0 and going for 3-0, North Texas against UAB. I said, if you remember last week, I said I thought the wrong team was favored. I thought North Texas should have been favored in that game, and it was 21-10 at the half in a college football game. 21-10, you're feeling pretty good. UAB comes all the way back. They take the lead late. North Texas is driving for the game-winning touchdown. The quarterback is running into the end zone, and the ball pops up out of his hand. UAB recovers. They go 3 and out. They give it back to North Texas. They're driving right down the field again, and on a 4th down and 10, it's an incomplete pass. North Texas loses. I'll stand by that pick all day long. It was a good pick, but you're not going to win every game. Games are going to be close. You're going to win some lucky. You're going to lose some unlucky. But overall, another 2-1 week in college football. It's been a lot of. I think we're in week 8. We've had like 6 2-1s. That's great. You can't ask for more than that. So another solid week in college, and then of course Howard in the NFL. It was the best week we've had in the Super Contest so far.
No question about it. Yeah, listen, we went 4-1 in the Super Contest, and that last game that was the one that we did lose, the Jaguars. That was the one that I mean, we weren't the only ones there. That was the first. It was the first game that we picked, and we were all psyched about it.
That one was my favorite one, ironically. So this is the first time I think in a long time I've lost that one.
Well, I took Jacksonville.
That one though, they laid a complete egg in that game. Like
I took Jacksonville in my survivor pool. And got knocked out. There were 8 of us left. There's $10K sitting on the line there. I felt great about the Jacksonville pick. There was no question. There was no doubt in my mind that this was just a great spot for Jacksonville, and they should have made it back. Now I'm just done with this team altogether. I don't even know who they're playing this week. Oh, they're over in London this week.
Right, they play Philadelphia, another team that's struggling. You know, with Jacksonville, what's interesting is I came out of that game feeling even worse about Houston. That game should have been 61-0. It really should have been.
Yeah.
I mean, you go back to fantasy. There's a league that I have that I have Watson, and I'm going back. I have a partner in the league, and we're talking back and forth about it. Like, I have no confidence whatsoever in Houston. Jacksonville, Bortles turned the ball over twice. They punted like 12 times in the game, and all Houston managed was like 21 points. They're a 7.5-point favorite on Thursday night against Miami. So, that was just one of the worst back-to-back performances we've had, actually, and we've lost. Tennessee 2 weeks ago, I told you Tennessee would rally, and they did. Last week they covered against the Chargers. And because it's a week-to-week league, you can't trust anything you see on 1 week. The Giants, by the way, again with the cover. This is a crazy league, this league. You can't predict anything. But we had Tennessee 2 weeks ago. They were terrible. They come back and play well. But Jacksonville, this is 3 weeks in a row of them playing awful. I don't think that you can side with them again. They brought in Kessler in that game. You always felt, even watching the game, like, maybe we still have a chance. That's a sign of a really bad team on the other side. As bad as they're playing, they still can get back into it. You always kind of felt that way about Jacksonville. They just kept kicking themselves in the foot. A ball went off Yeldon's hands and it was picked off. It was just an awful pick. But you know what? We shouldn't for the first time this season. We should not focus on any of the losses because we won so many games. So let's talk about those. The Lions was a great pick. Lions go to Miami here. Like that one a lot too. It really was never in doubt. A couple of fortunate plays. One in the back of the end zone to Kenny Stills from Osweiler, who's played well. Made that game somewhat close, but Detroit really dominated that game from start to finish. And then the picks that you were really on, I should give you credit for these for sure. We'll talk about the 2 that were certain. Minnesota was a great pick against the Jets. That thing was never close. If I am a betting person out there, I'm starting to ride Minnesota at this point. It looks like they've really started to turn this around. I don't know what was going on in the first couple of games of the season, but that Philadelphia game, once they beat them, and then they beat up on Arizona last week, now they beat up on the Jets. I mean, everyone loves the Rams right now, Howard, and everyone's taking the Rams to win the Super Bowl. We've seen this play out before. Offensive team gets into the NFC Championship against a defensive team like Philly last year. They lose. The Rams still present a 12-1 opportunity to win the Super Bowl right now. They don't have to win it. They just got to get there. You can hedge at that point. Minnesota's coming on. That was a great pick. The Patriots game was a relatively easy win. A Hail Mary at the end of the game shouldn't really count kind of against a handicap, and that's unusual for that to happen. The first half was kind of close. I was feeling like, wow, the Bears maybe were the pick here. That line, Howard, on Sunday was like 1. They went all the way down once Gronk, they announced him out. They took a half point off of it. But the Patriots were the right side. They were the right pick. They played very well against Chicago. I wouldn't use the last 2 weeks against Chicago at all. I think they ran into two really tough spots. They wilted in Miami in the Heat, and then they wilted against the Patriots. So that was a great pick as well. And then the Saints. The Saints was one of those where the handicap was right for them to be in the game. I don't know what would have happened had they went into overtime. We're going to take a win because we'll have a bad loss at some point too. But that was one of those ones that you'll look at the end of the season and say, give me your 5 lucky picks that you won and give me your 5 that you lost. Look, the Ravens could have easily kicked. Tucker has never missed an extra point. It goes to overtime. We could have lost very easily or pushed. Bottom line is a win at the end of the day. It's just one of those that you say to yourself, like, we had the good mojo on Sunday. But I would say that of the 5 picks, 3 were fantastic. The Saints was a really good pick. Make no mistake about it. It just was very close to the end, and Jacksonville was a terrible pick. The end.
Are you sure? Yeah, I'm done. The one thing I will go back and say as far as the Minnesota game goes, listen, yeah, Minnesota, they do look like they've straightened some things out, though. However, defensively right now, there's a lot to look at for them. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, are they on a bye? Oh, no. So they're going up against New Orleans this week. And
it's the best game of the week. There is no other good game.
No, there really isn't. But no. I got to tell you, man, I actually think that the Saints are going to end up taking this one again.
You like New Orleans? Okay.
Xavier Rhodes is banged up again, and that was, he limped off the field. I didn't even look at the results from his MRI from this afternoon because he couldn't put any weight on his knee whatsoever. So losing Xavier Rhodes is a big deal. They're already playing without Sendejo. Trey Waynes came back, but this dude can't cover anybody. So I do worry a little bit about Minnesota's pass defense here. Their run defense is still one of the best in the game, and that might be all it takes there to kind of neutralize Kamara this weekend. But, Drew Brees picking apart his Saints secondary, that's a little on the suspect side, something that we're definitely going to have to watch. But
it's a good game, man. It's the game of the week in the NFL, a pick-em game between two. And by the way, for sure if the revenge factor ever factors into a handicap, how badly the Saints are going to want this one on Sunday night after Diggs caught that pass last year and ran for the touchdown. But at the same time, Minnesota, to me, is a sleeping giant in the NFL. They have all the tools. Maybe they're a Cook being healthy away. They have the offensive. They have the quarterback now, I think, too. I just think that first few weeks, it was somewhat of an aberration, and I think I think that they will come back, and I think that they will end up winning 11, 12 games, and I think they'll play in the NFC Championship, and then who knows? I don't know what'll happen. Right. But anyway, that's the recap from this past week. So 2-1 in college and 4-1 in the Super Contest. If you followed our picks last week, you went 6-2. We have nothing to complain about.
I got nothing to complain about either. Absolutely. Want to do a quick say hi to our sponsor, MyBookie. Guys, MyBookie, it's incredible online reviews. Super easy to use their mobile site. Get started today by going to fantasyalarm.com/mybookie. Use the promo code ALARM, and MyBookie will match your first deposit dollar for dollar. You deposit $200, they give you $200 as well. fantasyalarm.com/mybookie, promo code ALARM, because who you're betting with just as important as who you're betting on.
Take the Vikings 12-1 right now.
Take the Vikings. You know what? You just brought up the revenge game narrative here, so I'm going to throw a revenge game narrative at you. You ready for this one, Craig?
Sure.
Why don't we take the Thursday game, take the Miami Dolphins, get those 7.5 points that they're giving us here, and go with the Brock Osweiler revenge game narrative against the Houston Texans?
I think it's possible. I think Miami may cover this game. I don't like Houston at all. But if we pick this game for the Super Contest, Howard, we have to pick all of our games Thursday. That doesn't make sense. Do you want to do that?
No, it doesn't. No, not really. Do you?
Not really. I haven't.
Tempting. So tempting though when you start talking revenge games. Come on.
Is it 7 or 7.5? Let me.
I see it as 7.5 on a site that I'm on right now. Who knows? It could. Listen, this line's going to move. And I'll tell you what. If I'm taking Miami in this one, I'm betting this one now. And I'll take my 7.5 for fear that somebody wakes up and realizes that Houston sucks.
Yeah, you want that 7.5 for sure. Absolutely. That's a great point. All right, so let's take a look at a couple of college games this week. Now, again, I think that when we do these live streams on Tuesday night, we'll definitely talk about betting and we'll talk about strategies. But the one thing that you have to understand, the difference between college football and pro football, as we are here on October 23rd, is now we're talking about getting into the college football playoff. And we're getting closer to teams in bowl games. The season is way past the halfway point. Teams only have about 4 games left or 5 games left. So we'll focus on some of those teams and the spreads in those games and potentially who could end up in the Final Four. And if there's a team on the outside that you can get some advantages with, like I showed you my ticket, which I burned, taking West Virginia a couple of weeks ago, now that they're out of it. So we can start with Texas. Texas is still could give you a ton of value if you bet them to win it all. I don't like them personally. I think they're going to lose before they even get to that point of being close. But Tom Herman, who has done a fantastic job. He's a former coach at Houston, and now it's taken him 2 years to get Texas right. They've looked great all year. Or is it just that TCU is down? Or is it that they just beat Oklahoma, luckily? I don't know. However you see it. This is their big game this week. They are now up to a 3-point favorite at Oklahoma State. This has been a down year for Oklahoma State. In general, the Cowboys are pretty good. The line tells you this is supposed to be a very close game. Texas still will have to play a Big 12 championship game in all likelihood to get into the 4, and and being at the 6th spot is right on the doorstep. But this is a possible upset this week with Oklahoma State playing at home. But a lot of Texas backers right now, that line has gone from 1.5 to 3. The other game that I'll be watching, of course, I make no bones about it. I went to the University of Florida, so I'm a Gators fan. The Gators have put themselves back into a potential championship position. I personally don't think, Howard, they can beat Alabama.
Okay.
But I am going to say that, like we talked about last week, if you're going to take a team right now in Vegas as a 10-1 or 12-1 or 15-1, you'd be foolish not taking a team that has a chance to play Alabama, even if they get smashed by Alabama, because at least you know they have the chance. So Florida and Georgia each have 1 loss. But what is the advantage of taking those 2 teams to win the title right now, even though the Gators are ranked 10th and the Bulldogs are ranked 7th? They play each other this week, right? So one of those teams is going to take a leap, and one of those 2 teams, in all likelihood, Kentucky's still in the mix, but in all likelihood is going to get a chance to play Alabama in the SEC championship game. And if they beat Alabama, they move into the Final Four. And then you can start hedging all of your bets. So you got to think about it and take teams that are set up to do this. Now, like Notre Dame, they're all set, man. They're going to get in there. They don't play anybody the rest of the year. We're screwed there. Notre Dame's getting in. So their odds are not good. Like, you're only going to get 4-1 or 5-1 because they're pretty much a lock at this point. Now with Ohio State out, Michigan has a chance to bounce back in. Ohio State lost to Purdue this past week. That was the big upset. Anyway, Florida plays Georgia. Georgia's -7. Essentially, this is going to be a stuck line on 7. This is not going to go anywhere. And the team that wins puts themselves in a position to play Alabama in the SEC championship game. The team that loses is completely out and is going to be playing in the Outback Bowl on January 1st or whenever that is. So those are the 2 kind of big games this week. There are no other real significant games. A lot of teams are on byes. Clemson plays Florida State. Normally, they're very good. Florida State's not good this year. Clemson will roll them. Clemson's the number 2 team in the country. Alabama's the number 1 team in the country, and then you have Notre Dame. So still some possible moves, but that kind of sums up college for this week.
All right, beautiful. All right, so we'll track those lines throughout the week. We'll come up on Friday with a couple of other games that we're looking at here. See if we can't repeat the college success that we've had. Let's look at some of the games in the NFL, maybe some lines that we're tracking here. Obviously, again, checking those lines, BetQL. Craig, another sponsor of ours here, BetQL. Talk to me a little bit about their app, because right now it's free to download on your Apple or Android device. You can head over to fantasyalarm.com/BetQL. And it's time for you to start making smarter bets and beating the odds makers. So again, download the app, get started, fantasyalarm.com/BetQL. Craig, how important is this app to you right now?
Yeah, it's really good because, look, first of all, the bets are good, and you can see that I've posted on my own Twitter at Craig Mish the results from Saturday. 2 of their top games won last week. They were both four-star plays.
I was just going to ask you. You said they had 4-star games, and they
both won.
And you didn't want to reveal it. What games were they?
Oh, that was 2 weeks ago, and they won also. I don't remember. Maybe one was Northwestern. I can't recall. I can't recall what it was, but it won, whatever it was. Okay. Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. This past week, I didn't do that. I just posted the result. Their early result was Temple, and then I posted 2 others. I think one was Wisconsin, and they won big, and then I don't remember who the other one was. I apologize for that. But either way, regardless if you want to use their picks or not, when you download the app, what it does is it tells you where the money is going, because, again, a lot of times you want to bet against where the public is. It tells you where the spreads are. It gives you the most up-to-date lines. You don't have to go to any website. There's a lot of websites out there where you have to click and you actually type in www. You don't have to do that. You have the app. You just pop it on, and it's there. And then for an upgrade, for a paying upgrade, which you can upgrade, then you can get all of their picks on every single game on the card from start to finish. They still give you some for free. You can download it and you'll get some for free. But if you upgrade in terms of the pay, and you can pick with each sport. You don't have to pay for all the sports. You can pay for some.
Right.
NBA, college football, the NFL. They'll give you, the option to do that as well. So I've been using it all football season. I would tell you that the ones that they have graded very high, there's a very high percentage of winning. And you can just tell there's some that they only have graded as like a 1-star play, and those are probably the ones not to bet. Maybe, we have our own opinions on those. But what I've noticed that the ones that are usually the higher grade usually win. So betql.co from any browser downloads the BetQL app.
Beautiful. All right. So, Craig, let's take a look at some of the NFL games here. Some of the bigger spreads that we're looking at. I mean, as it stands right now, Pittsburgh home favorite over Cleveland, 8.5. Kansas City home favorite over Denver. That's 10.
And that will be pick number 1 this week.
Which one? Kansas City over Denver?
Pick number 1. I mean, look, you have been watching football as long as I have. And playing fantasy sports as long as I have, or longer, the same. I've been playing fantasy since the 80s. There are teams in the league that pop up once every few years that just look like things you haven't seen before, and I think Kansas City is in that category. And it's really a disservice to New England because they look like this every year. But Kansas City and the Rams, I'm not so sure. I don't know. There's something about the Rams to me that says that they get bounced in the playoffs, but I don't see anyone stopping the Chiefs, Howard. And that Bengals team, I know they usually lay eggs on night games, but I don't know. Like, who's stopping that team this year? Like, themselves? I just have not seen an offense like this in a long time. Mahomes, and look, I've watched Mahomes a couple times. I can't say. I watched more of that Sunday night game, Mahomes, than I've watched all season long because I'm watching all the games on Sunday. Everyone, that hype is right, man. This guy is like, he's changing the plays at the line, and they can't stop Hunt and they can't stop Hill, and then there's guys I never even heard of that they're throwing to, and then all of a sudden they have Watkins. I didn't even realize they had him. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It's very hard for me to lay 10 in the NFL in any game. We've been doing this for 7 weeks. Have we laid 10 in any game this year? I don't even think so.
Didn't we lay 10 with Minnesota over the Jets?
Minnesota. That's the only one, though, all year, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't win. So you have 2 big lines that are tempting this week, and the odds that they both won't hit are high. But how in the world can you convince me to take Denver plus 10 at Kansas City? And how can you convince me on Monday night to take Buffalo against New England, getting 14?
Oh, I know, right?
You can't do it. There's only one way to go in those games.
But I'll tell you this. It's 9 Rams over Green Bay. I'll take the Packers with the 9 points going up against the Rams here. Rams defense is a mess.
Not good, yeah.
It's a disaster. Marcus Peters, I went and did a little bit of extra research. I think it was you and I who were talking about this. Is why all of a sudden is Marcus Peters not playing well? What was the change? And I looked at the system that he was used to in Kansas City, and it was a lot of zone coverage, and he was getting a lot of help from the safeties over the top. It's all man coverage for the Rams right now. So once he gets beat, and we saw this in the San Francisco game on that big giant rainbow pass that C.J. Beathard hit Marquise Goodwin on right over Marcus
Kittle
Peters.
Too. Yeah, Kittle caught some passes too.
Yeah, once he gets beaten hard. So I'm sorry, man, but you can't tell me that Aaron Rodgers with Devontae Adams and the rest of the weaponry that they have there for Green Bay, you can't tell me that that's a 9-point underdog there.
Yeah, it does seem very tempting, and you're right, because Beathard made a lot of mistakes in that game. Early on in that game, honestly, I had never heard of Mostert, whatever his name is, the running back. He was running right through the Rams until they got to the point, Howard, where it was 31-0, and then what are you going to do? You got to get out of your game plan. And look, that is a little concerning that Green Bay doesn't run the ball all that well, but the Rams have played a lot of games where they've scored 30 and the other team scores 27, and we saw that against Denver 2 weeks ago. To me, Denver's one of the worst teams in the NFL. I know they look great against Arizona. Yeah, great. That game, they fired the coach right after.
Everybody, look, you and I, the two of us against 11 of them would look fine against Arizona.
But I'll tell you, the temptation is there, and if you're betting, you're probably right. If you're betting also on, let me see where the money is here on this one. 69% of the money on Green Bay. So that tells you the line is probably going to be 9 by the time Sunday comes. So if you want to bet online and you live in New Jersey and you're betting on one of the sites there, or you're doing it on the side with one of your local guys, we all know people do that. You probably want to do it now and get 9.5 or 10, because I think this is another line that's probably going to end at 9 or maybe even 8.5 by the time Sunday
You think
comes.
it's going to stay at 9 the entire time?
I don't think it's going to go up. I don't think the Rams are going to be a bigger favorite.
I don't think it's going to go up either. I'm just worried about it actually dropping down to somewhere closer to like the 7.5 or 8.
That's where it feels like it should be. It feels like that's where it should be. I mean, maybe 8 is a fair number here, because you do want to make the Rams more than a touchdown against anyone in the NFL because of that offense. They go up 7-0. It's like, but I see your point on that. We'll look at that game as the week goes on, but definitely an interesting one there. Washington and the Giants, you'd have to pay me to watch or use that game, so we'll just stay away from that. What do you think? What do you think about this one? Indianapolis laying 3 on the road at Oakland. Is Oakland just giving up? Should we just start going against Oakland?
Oh, we have to. Yeah, they've definitely. Rumors pouring out today that they're actually going to be getting rid of Derek Carr as well. They traded Amari Cooper yesterday to Dallas for a first-round draft pick. It's great. What Gruden's doing from a football standpoint for the future looks great. He's just glomming all these first-round picks, and he's going to have a field day with it. From a fantasy standpoint, not even fantasy, from a betting standpoint this season right now, yeah, this is Oakland giving up. Marshawn Lynch already now, he's on injured reserve. He's done for the year. They're going to try and patch it up with Doug Martin, Jalen Richard.
I think he could be okay.
Really? 6 years ago.
I think he'll be okay. I don't mind Doug Martin. And he's did he play at all this year? Has he played it down? Does he play for Oakland? Serious question.
I'm not speaking to you.
Why? What's wrong with Doug Martin?
Yeah, no, he's played. He's gotten a couple of downs. Yeah, he's played a couple of downs. I don't know what his totals are here. I'll pull up the numbers right now. I have
not seen him in a Raiders uniform this year.
Yes.
Let me say this.
27 attempts. 99 yards.
That's not good. So, but last week when we talked about Buffalo and Indianapolis, I was like, look, we just can't take Buffalo. I know, but we just can't do it. You can't do it. And Indianapolis showed up and blew them out, right? Mm-hmm. I wonder if I don't know. 2 weeks ago against the Jets, this is why it's so hard to figure this league out. Indianapolis got throttled by the Jets. They come back, they destroy Buffalo. Which Colts team's going to show up this week at Oakland? Is it going to be Luck throwing for 300 yards, 70 touchdowns, no picks, and beating them 31-0, or are the Raiders going to win? I could not take the Raiders in the spot, but Indy has let us down before.
Yeah, but I can't take the Raiders here. The Achilles heel for the Colts right now is their supposedly their pass defense. Their secondary's coverage rates aren't really that strong. However,
they don't throw deep, Oakland.
No, they don't throw deep. They're trying to make Derek Carr a more efficient passer, but now they're even talking about getting rid of him. I mean, who knows what's going to happen there? Oakland is a team that is definitely on the downturn, and we're going to end up targeting against them so long as spreads don't get out of hand like this New England Buffalo spread here.
What, do you have the 14 yet on that or no?
Yeah, I'm looking at 14. You want to take 14?
It was 13 and a half the other day.
You want to? I mean,
there's
I would
no possible way Monday night. This is going to be higher than 14. It's going to be. I mean, how can you take Buffalo? They're so bad. Ugh.
What was Minnesota against Buffalo? What was that spread? Was it a 17-point spread?
17
and a half. Yeah, look what happened there.
Do you see that with New England?
Ooh, I don't know, man. What happens if Belichick gets the flu and Tom Brady's not feeling it?
Do you really want to show up a week from Tuesday and say that we took Buffalo and they lost 51-0?
I would not take Buffalo if you paid me to take Buffalo.
I think we just don't take the pick.
No. This pick's garbage. I like the Green Bay one.
We can agree Philly, Jacksonville. We're just not going to touch it, right? We don't know enough.
I'm not touching that.
We cannot figure out Jacksonville at all and Philly.
No.
Cincinnati at home against Tampa. Cincinnati getting embarrassed. Now they're only 4.5 over Tampa. I thought Cincinnati was pretty good. No,
go take a look at the game logs for Andy Dalton over the last 3 seasons from weeks 6 and on. That's his cliff. That's his cliff. He falls off a cliff. Last year it was week 6. The year before that it was week 8. The year before that it was week 7. He goes up, he goes up, he goes up, and he gets hit with that one game, and then he just Nightmare the rest of the
All
way.
right, well, we'll wait on that one. Here's a game that's interesting too. No respect whatsoever for the Lions. Only 3.5, 3-point favorites over Seattle. I know this is going to be more by the time Sunday comes. I mean, you know how I feel about Seattle. They've played better than I thought they would. Detroit is getting 0. That's a game that they're saying is a pick'em game because you get 3 points for being the home team.
Well, Detroit's been as inconsistent as, like, say, the Colts have been.
They played one bad game. Isn't that it?
No, they've played more than one bad game.
Let me take a look here.
Yeah, let's take a look. Let's go to the videotape here. Detroit, let's see. They lost to the Jets, then they lost to the 49ers, then they beat the Patriots, which stunned everybody. Then they lost to the Cowboys. Then they beat
that's
the
right.
Packers.
They lost in the end in that game. Yeah.
Then they beat the Packers.
They beat Green Bay, and they went to Miami and won. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they're getting enough respect.
The problem that I have here is the coaching. Like, Matt Patricia and Jim Bob Cooter are never on the same page right now. They're not. Like, I was shocked. You remember, I was so confident that Chicago was going to throttle the Dolphins that game that I lost the bet to you, right?
Yeah.
And what did I say Chicago was going to do? They were going to run the ball down Miami's throat, just run it up the gut. That's the soft underbelly of the Miami Dolphins defense, and all you have to do is just keep running at them over and over and over again. They should have pounded with Jordan Howard. Instead, they got cute with bullshit bubble screens, gimmick plays with Tariq Cohen, a bunch of jet sweeps, a bunch of end arounds, everything like that. They did everything except run it up the gut. And what did Detroit do when they went to Miami? What did they do? They ran it up the gut with Kerryon Johnson.
He looked great. He looked
158 yards on 19 carries.
He looked good.
He pounded and pounded and pounded. The question is, though, is that'll work against Seattle as well, running the ball. Will they do it, though, or will Jim Bob Cooter get all fancy schmancy again and turn around and try and pass the ball too much?
I think I like your handicap there, and I think that the under is a good play. 49.5. That's a lot of points. If those two teams are going to run, and Seattle's been running a lot, maybe we should bet the under in that game. I mean, we can't do it.
I do like Golden Tate and a revenge game narrative. I know you like your revenge narratives.
It's been years since he was in Seattle.
Well, people don't forget, Craig. People don't forget.
Okay, a couple more. Pittsburgh -8 at Cleveland. We're running out of time, so we'll talk about that one more on Friday. Washington, the Giants, stay away.
Not touching it.
The Bears -7 against the Jets. Baltimore -2 at Carolina. San Francisco, Arizona. Ugh, even. Who? What? I don't even know which team is going to show up for where. How can somebody do a handicap and say, "Oh, I really love Arizona in this one," or "I really love San Francisco in this one"? Like, how? Like, based on what?
Somebody who went to Marshall that thinks that Byron Leftwich, as the offensive coordinator for Arizona, is suddenly going to turn this whole team back around.
I mean, I would probably lean San Francisco a little bit after what I saw last Thursday, but
how could you not?
You know, I don't know. It's going to be a tough week, man. These games are not. I mean, we just saw it there. You have the Giants and Redskins. That's a spread of 1. You have the Saints and Vikings. That's a pick'em, and you have San Francisco and Arizona as a pick'em. So you know this is not going to be an easy week. We have to pick 5 games here, and one of them is probably going to be, a point spread. And then the Carolina-Baltimore game's a 2. So
right. Well, there you go, man. That's why we got 2 locks right now that we definitely like. I'm still digging on the Chiefs, and I'm still digging on Green Bay taking those points.
All right, let's see what the lines are tomorrow. We'll make our final decision Friday. You never know what could happen. That's why, I mean, it's good if you think a line is going to move to always make the bet now. I mean, and if people are watching our picks and betting on our advice, okay, then you could do that now, certainly. But also, you do run the risk this early in the week. Usually for me, Wednesday, Thursday before Saturday and Sunday, you always run the risk. Remember, God forbid, let's not curse it, and I won't even mention a name, but let's say the quarterback of an NFL team gets hurt in practice Wednesday. Like, I kind of like to get past that first day of practice just to make sure that I'm not making a significant bet when there's still practice to be had. We've seen this in the past, that a guy gets hurt. In fact, Tannehill from the Dolphins, remember, a few weeks ago, practice Wednesday, couldn't practice Thursday, couldn't practice Friday. and was out by the time the Bears game came. So, if you love a line that much that you want to do it right now, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. I know people who handicap that way. For me, I think usually Thursday is my Saturday day and Friday is my Sunday day, especially since we do these live streams on Friday.
I agree with you completely, although I do still think I'm going to go put a couple of units on Miami against Houston for Miami? This Thursday.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on Thursday night's pick.
Just for the 7.5 points there. Come on.
Listen, we've been pretty good on Thursday nights too, just giving our opinions and leans. So, so I'll agree with you on that one. I can't ever lay a touchdown with the Texans. I mean, It's just the line does not seem right there. I mean, the Dolphins may not be good, and they may miss Stills, they may miss Wilson, but it's still. I mean, that just seems like a lot to give any team for a team that just is not good.
Not good at all. Yeah. Not good at all. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us here on the Wager Alarm live stream. Craig and I will be back Friday night. We're going to finalize our college picks. We're going to finalize our NFL Super Contest picks. Looking forward to another strong week from Craig and myself. Big thanks to James Grande, our producer today. Big thanks to Wager Alarm. Big thanks to Fantasy Alarm. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.